dumped me and I fell into the trough of the water. I was so afraid I was going to drown.
When Shamu first debuted in SeaWorld, it was a show unlike anything that people had ever seen. A killer whale performing tricks, riding with trainers on its back, it was marvelous. The marine park had turned out to be a paradise of entertainment until one tragic day in 1971, when the ugly face of captivity revealed itself and Shamu attacked. Crowds watched in horror as the 9-year-old orca threw a young anguished off her back, then gnashed down on her leg for the kill. The star of the show had suddenly gone berserk, leaving everyone with a first-hand glimpse of a killer whale in relentless frustration. Anna was rescued just in time. Behind the paradise of entertainment lies a sordid tale of a beautiful beast of nature, and its life cut short only to please humans. This is an endearing story of the life of Shamu, the first performing orca of SeaWorld. For decades, the SeaWorld franchise has wowed crowds in Texas, Florida, and California, with their star attraction being the orca shows. The killer whales were projected as educational and awesome entertainment for families. So successful, in fact, that the name Shamu turned into a brand and a money-making machine. Yet the main character at the center of it all was always an unwilling participant. An orca who was wrenched cruelly from its home in the ocean to live in a nightmare entertaining humans. It all goes back to a sunny October day in 1965. Ted Griffin was about to set off a mission he enjoyed the most, capturing baby orcas. Griffin had caught a few before, and the sight of seeing a juvenile writhe and thrash in a net while its mother lay bleeding was a thrill like no other for him. Shamu would often roam the waters of Penn Cove Puget Sound off Washington, and like every other day, she was with her mother. Griffin spotted the whales and seized his chance. The killer whale was no match for a seasoned whale hunter, and soon, Shamu found herself in a horrifying situation. These humans were hurling the sharpest weapons at her mother, who kept trying to protect her baby. There was very little that Shamu's mother could do except succumb to her grievous injuries. The large killer whale sank like a stone, leaving her baby at the mercy of a delighted Griffin. It was the beginning of a never-ending nightmare for Shamu. It may come as a surprise, but SeaWorld was never intended as a home for Shamu. SeaWorld did not even have performing orcas at the time of her capture. It was all a grand plan for the notorious Ted Griffin to make a mate for Namu, a male orca, which he kept at his Seattle Marine Aquarium. Namu was a massive 6.5-meter bull sold to Griffin for $8,000, who showcased the orca as his most prized exhibit in an open pen at Warriors Cove, part of his Seattle Marine Aquarium. Unfortunately, Namu displayed signs of unfathomable stress, often emitting terrifying screams the entire night. Griffin decided that a female mate might just calm him down, and that mate turned out to be Shamu. From the vast expanse of the ocean, Shamu found herself suddenly thrust into a small 3-sided pen, about 12 by 18 meters and 6 meters deep, kept afloat by empty oil drums. Even worse was how she had a stranger for company. She was not used to being around males because she was still young and always roamed alongside her mother. Shamu missed her mother often, crying and wailing just like Namu. What made things worse was how the pen bordered the open ocean. The appearance of free whales who frequently visited in solidarity with their captured mates only made things worse. Shamu rejected Namu from the start. He was not going to share a small space with a huge male and often fought with him. Griffin's master plan for future breeding was dashed. Realizing his mistake, he sold Shamu to SeaWorld San Diego, and a new era in marine entertainment was born. SeaWorld, the brand new attraction at Rock, California, was promoted as a marine lover's paradise. Founded in 1964, it encompassed all 22 acres along the shores of Mission Bay and became a resounding success within a few days of its inauguration. The appearance of Shamu at SeaWorld skyrocketed the popularity of the marine entertainment company. Seeing small sharks, large turtles, and performing dolphins was one thing, but seeing a giant orca up close was a mind-blowing experience for many, except Shamu. From Griffin's hellhole to SeaWorld, it was like jumping from the frying pan into the fire for Shamu. Her living space at SeaWorld was no better than the pen at Warriors Cove. This was just as small and as claustrophobic. Shamu had now grown to 1,700 feet long, yet the tank she was housed in was just 20 feet by 30 feet. If Shamu stood vertically in the pool, the water would never cover her entire body. It was solitary confinement of the worst kind. From an unwilling mate to a male orca to a performing one at SeaWorld, Shamu's transition was not an easy one. SeaWorld was a completely alien environment. While she loved the water, she loved the feel of being able to swim, roll, and jump in a performing tank larger than hers. She was often puzzled why the humans poked, prodded, and forced her to do things she never wanted to. She didn't know how. Training to interact and perform stunts with humans was a nightmare for Shamu. She was scolded if she didn't oblige. She was starved and soon learned to associate cooperation with food. SeaWorld was ecstatic. Shamu became a celebrity. She was featured on billboards, the subject of TV shows, and of course, the crowds. How the groups loved her, and each time she surfaced out of the water with a human standing on the tip of her nose. The group would go berserk and echo and chant, "Shamu, Shamu." Everyone was happy. SeaWorld was raking in millions, but everything was not right with Shamu. She was falling into depression. SeaWorld was oblivious to the mental and physical harm to the orca. Instead, the standalone marine parks soon opened more franchises in Orlando, Florida, Ohio, and San Antonio, Texas. More parks meant a demand for more orcas, and soon, several more juveniles were captured by men like Griffin and sold to SeaWorld. Shamu performed at SeaWorld for 6 years, but all was not right with the female orca. She was just 9 years old, but already showing signs of distress. SeaWorld shrugged off all concerns, attributing Shamu's actions as normal stress. They failed to recognize how Shamu was reaching a breaking point, and desperation would soon turn to an attack. On April 19, 1971, Gail McLaughlin, SeaWorld's public relations director, and Kent Burgess asked SeaWorld's secretary, 22-year-old Anna Eckes, if she wanted to ride Shamu. They thought it would be an incredible publicity stunt, showing off how safe killer whale shows could be. McLaughlin and Burgess were naive and had no idea such actions could go wrong. Captive killer whales may be trained and obedient, but one thing not taken into consideration is their unpredictability. Moreover, such wild creatures view only trainers as masters, and their cooperation and loyalty are only directed at such individuals. Making them interact with a stranger is just asking for trouble, but it was arranged, and unsuspecting and excited Anna happily agreed. Anna was no novice to water. She was a trained scuba diver and an excellent swimmer, but interacting up close with a killer whale is an entirely different ballgame. Anna was warned before the stunt that it was a risk. Things could go wrong and she could fall off, but not in her wildest dreams did she envision an attack. Anna changed into a diving suit and got into the water with Shamu. Everything appeared normal. Anna followed all her cues and Shamu seemed to cooperate. Soon, Anna got onto the orca's back and raised her hand, smiled and waved to the crowd. As Shamu began swimming towards the deep end of the pool, disaster struck. One swift stroke, Shamu tossed Anna off, launching her into the water. Driven by instinct, years of depression and trauma, Shamu unleashed her rage on Anna. With her enormous teeth, Shamu grabbed the girl's leg and clamped down. Anna was trapped, and Shamu refused to let go. Anna screamed. She was in shock and could not believe what was happening. Why would Shamu attack her? If Shamu was not closer to the pool's edge, it might have been a terrifying tragedy for SeaWorld. Nonetheless, all the excitement and joy soon turned into horror as the crowd watched the star orca drag Anna Eckes around in her mouth. Fortunately, other trainers sprung into action in attempts to distract the killer whale. By now, the water was turning red with the blood from Anna's ankle. Shamu's teeth were embedded in her flesh and clamped shut like a vice. Soon, one of the trainers had the idea of driving a pool into the orca's mouth, forcibly prying her jaw open. The tactic worked, allowing Anna to break free. Anna was then taken to safety as Shamu swam around in circles in her pool, oblivious to what she had done. The crowd was all shocked and silent, and the terror turned into some iconic reprieve for Shamu. Her performing days were over.
I was so afraid I was going to drown. And because she would dive and go down, and I didn't know how long she would, be down there.
As for Anna Eckes, the girl suffered a horrible deep gash that required 100 stitches. In the same year, Anna sued SeaWorld for fraud, negligence, and liability for an animal with vicious or dangerous propensities. She was awarded $17,500 in damages, and SeaWorld's appeals for a non-suit and a new trial were denied. Even though Shamu was retired from performing, her life was worse than ever. The stimulation of performing was denied. She was made to live in her puny little tank, and the trauma took its toll. By the end of 1971, Shamu contracted a severe uterine infection, which did not respond to treatment. Too fragile and ill, she died of septicemia and was just 9 years old. In contrast, a free orca in the ocean can live to almost 90 years old, the average being 80. Shamu's death did not mark the end of SeaWorld shows. The marine park has tasted billions and will never pass that up. A new orca, Helena, the first to be born and survive in captivity, adored the mantle of Shamu, and the show continued. Was it right of SeaWorld to establish a live performing band that involved the suffering and captivity of a beautiful animal? We have our thoughts reserved, but maybe another orca's tale could give the answer, shown on screen.